Right. Uh, I'm back. Please, I request, just give me a confirmation. Am I audible? Yeah, yeah. Yes, Arnav, I'm back. Okay. 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 Thank you so much for such a nice cooperation. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay. So, uh, before this small bio break, I explained that what is descriptive analytics, what is predictive analytics. But let me tell you, apart from that, apart from that, uh, we have few more type of analytics. One is, I'll say that, diagnostic analytics. Diagnostic analytics. And one more is that prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive analytics. So these are some more type of analytics. I'll be explaining with that. But before that, let me open. Yeah. Mm, yeah. So I was explaining this one. Let me play this. Okay. Yeah. So here I said that this entire bubble is I said data science, and in this data science, this outer part is known as descriptive analytics, and this entire inner part is known as predictive analytics. This part is the predictive. I say that this is the descriptive analytics, and this is predictive analytics. So now you can see that AI AI is the part of predictive analytics of data science. Right? AI is the part of predictive analytics of data science. So if you have to apply the descriptive analytics, for this part, we need the basic knowledge of statistics, and it can be done on Excel also. Descriptive analytics can be done on Excel also. Uh, some basic level of, in fact, good, even give good level of this descriptive analytics now can be done in Excel and advanced Excel. But apart from Excel, we have some more feature-rich tools like Tableau. Number one is Tableau. Uh, Apart from Tableau, we have Power BI, Power Business Intelligence, Power BI, Tableau. We have SAS, we have SPSS. So these are the tools. Apart from Excel, we have some other tools through which we can do this descriptive analytics. But for predictive analytics, we need to apply the AI, and then you need to write down some logics. And that logics can be written either by using the concept of machine learning or by using deep learning. So I hope now this concept, I'm sure that this concept is easily understandable, that what is data science and what is predictive analytics, what is descriptive analytics. Now, if I question is, can we say deep learning is the part of predictive analytics of data science? Can we say like that? Deep learning is the part of predictive analytics of data science. Can we say like that? Are you agreed with me? Okay. Okay. So, okay, all right. So in this FDP, we are going to more emphasize on predictive analytics of the data science part. We'll cover a small part of descriptive analytics, but maximum part will be dealing with the predictive analytics of the data science. We'll be dealing with the predictive analytics. And for descriptive analytics, you can do that uh, a small scale of descriptive analytics can be easily done in Excel also. You don't need all these algorithm of neural network, LSTM, get a neural network. You don't need all these things, ANN, or you don't need all this CNN convolution neural network. You don't need all the kernel techniques. Uh, you don't need SVM, you don't need Kenner. So if you have to do apply only for descriptive analytics, you can do it in simple Excel as well, or through the data visualization tools. There are lots of tools through which you can do that. Apart from, other than Excel, we have some more tools out there. But when we come back to the predictive analytics, then we need to write down the logic. Now, for predictive analytics part, and as I said that apart from predictive analytics, we have another, I'll say the third category, that is, let me write. Third category is diagnostic analytics, and the fourth one is prescriptive analytics. Prescriptive analytics. So what does it mean by this? So let me again explain it with the help of example. Uh, let's suppose if somebody is having not feeling well, if some person is not feeling well, right? Then this person will definitely consult with the doctor. This person will go to the doctor. So this person will tell that, okay, I'm not feeling well. So what doctor will do? Doctor will try to doctor will try to find out the problem. Is doctor will diagnose the problem. Doctor uh, uh, will ask that, are you feeling fever? Doctor will say that, okay, go for some COVID test, go for some blood test, urine test. So there are different type of tests that doctor will uh, ask to do, and based on their reports, doctor will diagnose the problem, that this person is having malaria, or this person is having dengue, or this person is having COVID, why this person is having fever. So this doctor will try to find out the root cause problem. So when you try to find out the root cause problem, the cause of a problem, that is known as diagnostic analytics. Now let me explain from the industrial use point of view. From the industrial use point of view, I will say that let's suppose there is one organization. Let me draw it. There is one organization, and this organization is putting lots of effort. This organization is putting lots of, uh, I'll say that organization is putting lots of effort, lots of advertisement, lots of investment, and lots of effort in terms of money and time is applied in this organization. But from this organization, we are not able to get very good output. Not this organization, even after putting such a branding, promotion, investing, and all employees are putting effort, but still this organization is not able to make good profit. Right? This organization is not able to make a good profit. So why this organization is not making good profit? So what we'll do, this organization will contact one data scientist. They will contact with the data scientist, and data scientists will analyze all the data to tell and to find out and to tell that why this organization is not getting proper profit even after all these putting efforts. So that the diagnostic analytics. Diagnostic analytics. Okay, so next is prescriptive analytics. So what does it mean by prescriptive analytics? Let me explain it again with a very simple example. Suppose there is a patient, there is a person, and this person is not feeling well. So this person went to the doctor, and doctor has diagnosed lots of things. And after diagnosis, this doctor declared that this person is COVID positive. Right? This person is COVID positive. For example, I'm just taking one hypothetical assumption that a doctor diagnosed that this person is COVID positive. So now what this person will say? Now this person will ask the doctor that, okay, doctor, if I'm COVID positive, now tell me what should I do so that I can overcome from this problem. All right. Uh, Doctor will provide some prescription medicines. So doctor will prescribe that what this person should do so that this person should get rid of this problem. So this time doctor is prescribing some solution to the patient. That is prescriptive analytics. Now let me explain from industrial point of view. Let me give a very example, very interesting and fascinating example you can easily understand. Uh, so again, I'm talking about the same organization for which I have taken the last time example that Ranjan sir, exactly. Uh, yes, Vinod sir, exactly. I think that's fantastic, Niyaman. That's right. Diagnostic means find out the root cause of the problem. And let me give you another example of prescriptive analytics. That suppose there is an organization. Yes, Rubel Deep sir, sure. I'm giving this prescriptive. Yeah, prescriptive. Yeah, provide the solution. Like suppose there is an organization, and this organization is again putting lots of effort, time, money, investment, people, all things are there, but they are getting very less output. Suppose they're getting a profit of only 5 crores of rupees. For example, let's say one dummy data is this organization is able to make 5 crores of rupees of profit. Yes. Uh, Afrin sir, actually, Afrin Subiji, I will say that there is small correction. I'll say that. Uh, I'll say that. Malti ji, yes. Malti ma'am, that's right. After diagnostic, then only we can do the like prescript exactly. So suppose this company is making a profit of like 5 million dollars or 5 crores of 5 million rupees or 5 millions of dollars as a turnover. But this, the company, they will contact with one data scientist and they will say that, tell me what should we do so that my profit should increase from $5 million to $15 million. What we should do that so that we can increase the profit, what changes we should do in the organization so that we can increase the profit from 5 to 15, and then the data scientist will do some prescription. That is prescriptive analytics. That is prescriptive analytics. Yeah, Jyoti ma'am, that is simply predictive analytics. Miss, if you are finding that uh, which stock are we going to purchase, that whether this stock has to purchase or not to purchase, that suggestion is purely predictive analytics, right? See, before, miss, in advance, if I get to know that one share, a share of a specific company is going to lose, so of course, if I'll get to know well in advance, I'm not going to purchase that share. If I get to know already well in advance that the share of this XY company is going to increase at a very high speed, so definitely I'll definitely purchase that. So that's all about predictive analytics. But there is a good news. There's a good news that all these predictive analytics, diagnostic analytics, and prescriptive analytics. For all these things, you don't need to learn three separate syllabus. Their syllabus is common that you have to learn AI. Yeah, using descriptive analysis just to describe the data. That's all. Diagnostic is slightly different. For diagnostic also we need to do some sort of we need to take the help of like descriptive as well as some machine learning or deep learning. Both is required. It's a combination. It's a combination. But the thing is, the best part is that the syllabus is not different. Means it's not like that the syllabus of it's this one. This. You have to study the same thing. Even if you have to go for this one, you have to study the same thing, AI. Even if you have to go for this one, you have to study the AI. Even if you have to study for predictive, you have to learn the one thing, that is AI. All right. So Uh, I request everyone, please give me confirmation. Are you able to, am I able to explain the difference between diagnostic and prescriptive analytics? Are you comfortable with that? Yes. And if you include descriptive analytics, then that is the data science. That is the data science. That's the I think Pooja ma'am, you have written a very fantastic formula. I could see that here in this FDP, I could see that uh, I'm getting very innovative, in fact, and very creative and innovative answers and examples. Miss, not only queries, I'm getting lots of favor from many faculty member in a very innovative and very creative way. That's really impressive. Yes. Yes, CV Saransa, that's right. In fact, for predictive analytics also, first we need to describe the data. Miss, it's not like that you can do directly predictive analytics. No. So in fact, all these type of terminologies, all these, see, it is something like if I say that you have to swim and there are four ways of swimming. See, ultimately you need to learn how to get into the water. Like as I say that we have a free wave, we have butterfly stroke, we have breaststroke, we have a backstroke. So these are the four ways of swimming, right? But ultimately, you have to learn only one thing: how to get into the water. Exactly same way, all the type of analytics that I told you, you don't need to learn something else. You have to learn only one thing, that is AI. So I hope I have tried to explain all these concepts. Now we are coming back. I'll suggest that if you want to learn AI, start learning from machine learning, because once if you're comfortable with this, do not consider that deep learning is a subset of machine learning. No, this is not subset. You can assume that there is one tray, one plate. On this plate, there is another plate. On this plate, there is another plate. So who is the topmost plate? I say that this third plate is the topmost plate, right? But do not consider that this is the, I say, the subset of this one. No, here deep learning is the next level of machine learning. Deep learning is the next level. So all the concept that you will learn in machine learning also to be used in deep learning, plus one more topic. I will say that AI, we can say that AI broadly, as per this, we can say AI, we can say that ML plus DL, that is AI. ML plus DL. This entire AI can be broadly categorized ML plus DL. So if you want to learn, then first start learning with the machine learning, then we can go ahead with the deep learning. Because most of the concept that you will learn in machine learning, they are the fundamental of deep learning. So all the concept that we require in machine learning, we need to use plus one topic, and that topic is concept of perceptron. That's all. I repeat, in deep learning, you have to use all the concepts of many concepts of machine learning plus one extra topic, one topic. And please don't think that this one topic is a very small topic. Again, itself is a very big topic. The topic name is the concept of perceptron. That extra topic is concept of perceptron, but now also known as concept of neurons or neural network. Uh, Pooja ma'am, here I will say that yes, Pooja ma'am, I'll say that uh, you you should not use the word superset or subset. Better, the more appropriate term that I suggest that you we can use the term that deep learning is the next level. Why next? Why? Because its application domain is different thing. It is not something like we cannot compare the deep learning with the machine learning, because it's not like that everywhere. if it is a subset or superset, doesn't mean that everywhere we can deep learning can be used. No, if there are two projects, P1 and P2, so if P1 is having structured data, and if I apply deep learning, this project is not going to give us a very good accuracy. Right? Their purpose so totally different. This P2 project, so deep learning is only available for this P2 if the data for P2 is unstructured data. So that's why I will say that you should say that deep learning is the next level of, I'll say this is the level one, this is the level two, and the purpose of level one is for something else, purpose of level two is something else. But if you want to learn deep learning, I highly recommend that first you learn machine learning. First you learn, if you want a very better understanding, then this should be the recommended, that first you go through machine learning and then you can go for deep learning. Okay, so no. Tarachan sir, of course we can apply. We can apply. Uh, uh, I think that's a very good question. Yes, Harjinder Singh, ji, that's right. You have written, that's correct. With the help of AI, and AI includes both of them. That's right, sir. And one question that was asked by Tarajan sir, that's really a very good question. That let me draw something so that I can explain it. Suppose there is two data. One, this data is my structured data, as the structured data. And second one is, again, I'll draw it and I'll say that unstructured data. Unstructured data. So now I request, please read the question that was asked by Tarachand sir. I think this is really very good question. Tarachand sir has straightforward, he has asked the question. So Tarachand sir has straightforward, he has asked the question, can't apply deep learning on structured data? I hope Tarachand sir, am I right? I think that's what the question, that can't we use this deep learning on structured data? What ideally I told that deep learning has to be applied on unstructured and machine. That's what I told. But deep learning on structured. So if you say that if we are uh, if you are forced to use, so answer is we can. If you ask that, can't we use deep learning? Can't we use? So if the question is that can or not, can we or we cannot? So answer is yes, we can. But as I said that there is a great difference between deep learning and machine learning that we can do, but that's a very complicated. In fact, sometimes deep learning do not produce very good accuracy on structured data, right? So when deep learning is going to get a very good structure, when the data columns are too big. Suppose Tarajan said, let's suppose I have a data. In that data, I have only 6 or 7 columns. Let's suppose I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have only 7 column of data. Deep learning is not useful when number of columns are less. Deep learning is always useful when number of columns are too much. Like suppose we have 4,000 columns. I have a data where number of columns are 4,000, or number of columns are 200, or number of columns are 700, number of columns are 784. So number of columns are huge. Ideally, then we should go for deep learning. I repeat, even if your data, I think Alex has asked a very, very innovative question that let's suppose if I have a data and data is in a structure format, but total number of columns are 4,000. Then in that case, even though the data is structured, that will be good practice that you should first start with deep learning rather than machine learning. So actually the main criteria to distinguish is, let me tell you that there is some technical complexities in machine learning, and that problem has been solved by deep learning. Let me explain with example why I said that. If number of columns are too much, even the data is structured, then deep learning is going to perform much better, much better. But if number of columns are less, then you will go for machine learning. So why I said that unstructured data we have to follow, because all the unstructured data like images. So nowadays, if you click a picture from the images, I'm sure that you have seen one picture is of like 5 MB of size. So just suppose there are 1000 pixel images there, 1000 by 1000. So if we inflate, so that will be like 10 to the power 6 pixel means there will be, can you say, 1 lakh column will be there. There will be 1 lakh columns will be there. So normally when we inflate an image, inflate means arrange all the pixels side by side, arrange all the pixels. So normally whenever we have images, automatically number of columns gets increased. But I'm saying that even if you have structured data and number of columns are too much, then also you should better to go with the deep learning. Or another way is from 4,000, find out the important few columns, like out of 400 you selected like only 30 columns are important, remaining out of 4,000 remaining columns are not important. So either you select those 30 important columns manually and then you can go for machine learning, and if you cannot find out the 30 important columns, technically in machine learning that is known as feature selection. Feature selection means find out the important column, or I'll say region of interest. ROI selection has to be done manually in the machine learning. So let me, yes, I think very good. I think uh, Ranjan sir, I think this is one of the first time I got such an innovative example to explain this topic. Uh, I really appreciate that. This is a very fantastic example. Ranjan sir, I need your permission. I want to include your example in my PPT. I want to include your example in my PPT. Please let me copy it. I think this really very interesting example. I will, let me copy it. Otherwise, I might forget. Just a minute. I think this is really very interesting and innovative example that was invented by. So, Ranjan sir, I want to use your example in my upcoming part. I think this is a very innovative example. That's right. So, yes. So, uh, okay, let me explain. Let me show you the basic difference. Just a minute. Come back to the. Yes. Can you see this slide? In this slide, what is the basic difference between machine learning and deep learning? The basic difference is in machine learning, the ROI selection is to be done manually by the programmer, by the data scientist. Means if we have 1 million photographs, or suppose if you have 1 million photographs, so from every photograph, I have to manually mark and select that pixel, manually mark and select that. Why? Because all pixels are not important. So in machine learning, I cannot use huge data set. I cannot use this small ROI selection is to be done manually. Now compare it in this example. This process is taken care by this science, the mathematics, the technique that we are using here. The ROI selection is not to be done manually. This algorithm, this logic will do automatically. This logic will automatically discard all these pixels which are not important for us, that is useless for us. All right, I think yes, exactly. I think uh, here we have kind of a more sparse data. When we have a more sparse data, or I'll say that here, here out of all space of the data, that ROI is the small part, and that ROI structure is also not fixed in that situation. So that is the main criteria, and why I said that we should go for deep learning for unstructured, because all unstructured data. Suppose there is an image of 3 by 3 pixel, and one more thing, in this FDP, whenever I'll use inflate the image. So what does it mean by inflate the image? So like suppose this is a 1, 2, 3, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So inflate means this is the first row. So 1, 2, 3. Put another row, 4, 5, 6. Put another row side by side like this, 4, 5, 6. Then 7, 8, 9. So can you see that this 3 by 3 matrix is finally converted to 1 by 1 row by 9 column. 1 by 9 column. So ultimately it was 3 by 3, and it was converted to. So every pixel will become one column. But whenever you take a picture, nowadays, if you take a picture from DSLR or from a normal camera, so their picture is of 5 MB. Means you can you imagine that, like 10 to the power 6 or 10 to the power 8 or 12 is the length, and then 10 to the power 6. This is the resolution of the image. So can you see that if I inflate this image, how many huge number of columns is going to be there? Yes, exactly, Rohan sir. Exactly. We can say that deep learning is developed to solve this feature detection problem. But this technique is only going to work when the feature space is used. Feature space means when complete data set is used, but out of huge data set, I have to use small part of the useful data. So that's why deep learning is evolved from the machine, and that's why I said that you should always, if you want to learn this deep learning, you should also first go through the machine learning, and then you should start with learning. So this is just my recommendation, but again you can go directly as well. But I have seen that if somebody start learning deep learning directly, so normally the people find difficulties because so many terminologies that we are using from this machine learning. Yes, that's right. Very impressive. We can, when we have to search a pearl in the ocean, use DL. Fantastic. Impressive, Rohan sir. Impressive. Uh, I'm really impressed the way you all are, in fact, interacting, and you all really made this session very, very interactive, a very lively session. And see, I asked that uh, in the beginning, I already said that at any point of time, if you have some innovative ideas, or if you have some more example, if you want to add some example, so all your example, innovative and creative examples are always welcome from my side. So not only queries, if you have something more to tell, so you can easily, I always welcome your suggestion and example. That's really, yeah, sure, Neeraj sir, sure, sure, definitely, sir. So now, one more thing. Okay, sure. Okay, Neeraj sir, I'll share it. No issues. So for tomorrow's session, I need you to do some softwares to be downloaded for that is required for hands-on implementations. Let me write. I'm writing it. So for tomorrow's session, we need some tools and some softwares. Let me open that. Let me open. So for this hands-on implementations, uh, yeah, for this hands-on implementations, we can do. Yes, sure. No. Avik Mukherjee ji, please just give me a few minutes. I'll explain that. I'll say that for hands-on implementation, we have three ways. In fact, this is the first method, this is the second method, and this is the third ways. So there are three ways for hands-on implementation of all these examples of data science. First method is we have to use Python. We have to use Python, number one. And apart from Python, we also need IDE. But again, this Python is not compulsory. Means apart from Python, we can use some other languages as well. We can use Java, we can use R, or we also have some old language like you can go for Octave, like Java, R. So it's not like that only Python is only available. Apart from Python, you can implement these algorithms in other languages as well, Java and R. But out of all these, the learning curve of Python is smallest. Means if you are very beginner or if you are even not from the CS background, if you are from other branch, so still you can learn Python in a very small span of time. In a very less span of time, you can learn the Python. It is one of the most easiest language to learn by your own. Means you can learn even by your own. There are lots of content available online, and but this is the kind of a translator that is just like in Java we have compiler, in C++ we have compiler. It's a kind of a translator, and that is known as interpreter. So its learning curve is smallest and it is the simplest language. That's why we are using over here. And but translate, where are we going to write on the code? So code can be in either notepad, just like you can see that I have just opened this notepad. I have just written this. So this is a notepad. I can write on my code of machine learning over here, or we can use idle. This is another ID gets installed along with the Python, or we can go with the PyCharm, or we can go with the Spider, or we can go with this. So these all are the platform where we are going to write on the code of the data science. This is the this is a platform where we are going to uh, uh, I'll say that uh, we have to write on this code. And after installing this one, we need to install all these plugins of machine learning and data science. So there are multiple plugins. So few of them I have written it like NumPy, Matplotlib, Pandas. So these all are the libraries that we need to install it. And after all the installation, then you can start working off all the any hands-on implementation of uh, it's just you can install it. But this technique is as a beginner, I do not recommend to go for this first method because it involves lots of expertise, and you need to take care of their installation sequence, their version compatibility, and lots of things are there. Uh, uh, you need to. So this is not a convenient way for the beginner. The first method. But second method is the most easiest and recommended way for hands-on implementation. So just install the software. Name of the software is Anaconda. Software name is Anaconda. That software name is Anaconda. Now, this Anaconda contains, let me show you that this Anaconda contains this Python part that is already there, available, that is there. Inside the Anaconda, all these AI libraries are also available. They are also available. And this spider as an ID, it is also available. So you can see that here we have this spider part. So if you install Anaconda, it has everything in this one. It has Python converter, the translator that is known as interpreter is there. It has all the AI libraries. It has all IDs. Everything is there. So you need to install Anaconda. So everything will be available. But apart from Spider, uh, I like PyCharm more. But this is not going to get installed along with the Anaconda. Uh, you can install it separately. And again, see, this is just your preference, your personal preference. You can work with a spider or you can work with a PyCharm. You can see, can you see that here? This is the spider. This is one of the spider. This is the look and feel of a spider. You can write on the code either in a spider, or we can write on the code in the PyCharm. So I have shown both of you. You can see that I have both of them with me. So we can write it on the code anywhere in this one. So I'll be explaining all the logic in any one of the way, or you can use even Jupyter. Jupyter is also there. You can use Jupyter. Or third one is, and the third one is Colab. So as a beginner, I do not recommend to go for Colab because here everything will be pre-installed setup over there, and you always need internet to work with that. So if you go ahead with that, so everything you can see, you can do experiment, all the libraries will be available with you. So every control will be in your hand. So I recommend that you should install Anaconda. So for tomorrow's session, I recommend that just download this software if you do not have. So if you're a very beginner, just download this Anaconda software. Oh, I have got 40 queries. Just a minute. Uh, yes, yes. So I have given you all the options. You can choose any one of these options. So for from my side, there is no compulsion. There will be the same logic. You can go ahead with all these logics. So you can write on the code anywhere. All right, you can go for Colab, VS Code, everything. These all are the very easy. So you can go with the Jupyter. Yes, Sujitra ma'am, you can go with the Colab. So if you already know the Colab, or if you know one of the features, so you can, why not you try to attempt to learn something else. Miss, if you are already familiar with the Colab, you can go ahead with the PyCharm as well. So you will get the opportunity to learn it. All right. So so if you already have installed Anaconda, please do not download and reinstall. I repeat, if you already have, yeah, Chandrika sir, if you already have Anaconda and Spider, do not install. That is sufficient. That is sufficient. Okay. See, for Anaconda, technically from officially they say that 2 GB of RAM is sufficient, but again, that is minimum requirement. Means in computer, there should not be any other software other than the Anaconda. Then only 2 GB is required. But broadly, I'll say that 8 GB is a very good optimum output, but even if you have a 6 GB of RAM, then also that will work properly. 4 to 6 GB, that will work. And even if you have a new laptop of i3 of later generation of or i5, even older generation, then also that will work, no issues. Yes, yes, uh, yeah, Gandhiraj, that's right. Yeah. So we can go with Jupyter as well. Prakash sir, because from tomorrow we'll start the hands-on implementation part. Then I'll give you the link where I'll upload the data that we'll be using for the experiments. All right, I think Savita ma'am, I think, uh, but I'll say that 2 GB RAM is only that is theoretically I could say that that will work okay, but on empirical ground I could say that at least 6 to 8 GB is going to be for optimum performance. Yeah, I think Arna ma'am, okay, I think so many have asked the link. Okay, so let me show you that from where you have to download it, especially those who are very new from this field. So let me open this. Okay, so those who are very new from this field, so I'm showing you that. Um, so I could say that I have already 74 messages that I have not yet, I could not see because all these messages came all along with me. So I'll try to read one by one and I'll answer your queries one by one. But let me, before that, I'll show you that how can we download this. So we can open, okay. So now you can see that we can do it very easily in a very simple way. Uh, Arna ma'am, I will be explaining in uh, Anaconda Jupyter and PyCharm, and I'll also show in the first beginning program. I'll also show how to do all these steps in the Spider as well. But maximum I'll be explaining in PyCharm and Jupyter. So you can write down Anaconda download in the Google, and once if you write down Anaconda Google, you will get this option individual edition. So you can click on this individual edition. So if you click on this individual edition, so you can see that your data science. So this FDP, for this FDP, the data science toolkit will be available from here. So you have to just click on the bottom. You have to go to the bottom, scroll. And in the last, can you see that there are three options? So yes, Gajapati sir, that's sure. I'm sharing the link. Yeah, I'm sharing the link in the chat box. I'm sharing this link in the chat box. I'm just shared that link. Okay, so in that case, Parag, then I recommend that you can go for the collab. Then the collab is the best option. Yes, that's right, Venkat. So here you can see if you're Mac, so or according to Mac or Linux, you can download your appropriate version. So I recommend you can go ahead with these two options, either Windows or Mac. So and most of the new laptop they normally have 64-bit architecture, so you can download this one. If you have old version, then you can download this one. Okay, yes, Bharti ma'am, if and so you can do one thing, you can download and install. Installation is quite simple. Just double click the installer and just click next, and all that will get downloaded and installed. And apart from that, you just for tomorrow's session, you just please download it. Arna ma'am, you can this you can better you can install this one. That graphical is also okay, no issues. That graphical is also no issue. Yes, you can download on Windows 7 as well. That will work on Windows 7, no issues. PyCharm latest version is not going to work on Windows 7. So just try to install it. And then, like if you are having Windows 7, so please ensure that your machine is having 32-bit architecture or 64-bit. So accordingly, then you can download it. You can choose it. Sure. Uh, at least I try to answer all of your questions, but still around more than 85 messages I could not see. Uh, oh, I think let me share this example. Let me share it. I'm sharing this link again. So I try to answer every questions, but still if I missed, you can repost your queries or questions, so I'll answer it. Thank you so much of this, sir. Thank you so much for this such a nice compliment. Jay Bharti ji, there is no link for feedback. In fact, the feedback link will be shared in the last of the FDP or in the mid of the FDP. Okay. So that's all from my side, and I recommend that please. Uh, Okay, Pooja ma'am, let me tell you that frankly, I never worked on any project of data science in which I used that ASP.NET. But of course, you can do that, Miss. I worked with the C sharp language, but C sharp language we can easily do that, Miss. In fact, data science is a concept, but if we use Python and these, so Python, it's number one, we can learn it very easily, and it is specially designed. We have specially designed kits so that that will help you to implement the concept of operation broadcasting. These are the features which are not available in .NET. So we can implement, but again, the logic and length coding will be very lengthy as compared to if we implement via Python. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. So I recommend that please for tomorrow's session, please at least download it. Even if you're not able to install, it's okay, but at least download the software because it's a quite big software. It takes time, so 10 to 15 minutes depending upon your internet speed. So please keep it download. At least keep it download for tomorrow's session so that we can do some hands-on part of this data science. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, Madhuri Devi ma'am, if you want to work with a big data, so I'll say that you should go for the Cloudera Hadoop. That is the best platform. You'll get the virtual machine of Cloudera Hadoop, but again, that requires at least 6 to 8 GB of hard disk and at least 8 GB of RAM is required. All right, ma'am. So you can go for the Cloudera Hadoop. That is very because I worked on that. So if you want to do, I can help you in the like big data processing. Uh, so Mir sir, I will say that just for tomorrow's session, just download this Anaconda. Remaining part, I will explain. I'll explain it in tomorrow's session. All right. Thank you so much, Jyotiji. Thank you so much for such a wonderful compliment. Thank you so much. Uh, uh, Afrin ma'am, there is no need for any attendance to be submitted via link. The attendance will be captured via your link on the Zoom, your log from the Zoom. Neeraj sir, for tomorrow's hands-on implementation, only Anaconda, only Anaconda. Okay, thank you, Neha ma'am. Thank you so much for such a wonderful compliment. Thank you, Subhas sir. No, Neeraj sir, just for tomorrow's session, just Anaconda. Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Vijay sir. So I could see that now more than 150 messages are there, but still I could see. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, Sudesh sir has asked the question, what is the difference between big data and data? Sir, that's a very big difference. That's a very big difference. I think Sudesh sir has asked the question, the difference between big data. Sir, because I worked with the big data, so I think I can better answer this. Big data means any data, any data where we have huge volume, velocity, and variety. 3V volume, velocity, and variety. If we have a data in high volume and the data is collecting at a very fast velocity, the speed of data collection, like the data being uploaded on YouTube and Facebook, at a very fast speed data is getting uploaded. So volume and different type of data, images, audio, video. So that's the veracity. So volume, velocity, and veracity and variety of the data. So this is the 3V. If any data has these three capabilities, that are known as big data. So big data is only about how to store. Suppose you have how many storage you have, sir, in your laptop. Might be 1 TB or 2 TB, right? But on Facebook and YouTube, some like millions of terabyte data is collected every hour or every day, millions of terabytes. So how to store that much of data? Where should we store this data? How should we store that data? So big data deals with that huge amount of data, storage of huge amount of data. And if I store something and I need to calculate some process, suppose I need to find something, I need to search something, I need to calculate average of used data, how to process that data. So big data is basically covered two aspects. Number one is storage of data. I write number one is storage of data. How to store that? Suppose if your laptop is having 1 TB of data, but I have to store 2 TB of data. How can we store that big much of amount of data? So big data deals with storage of big data and processing of big data. So technically, storage, the technique that we use to store the data is known as HDFS. And the technique that we apply to process the data, that views data, is known as MapReduce. MapReduce. So these are the ways. Sudhir sir, if you're working on any one of the project on this one on the big data, so because I worked a lot on this big data as well, so I can help you on this one as well. All right, I think now I have answered your question. All right, sir. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Vijay sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mir sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. All right. Yes, yes, CB Saranji, that's right. No, we cannot convert. We cannot convert unstructured data into structured data. We cannot convert unstructured data. We can find out region of interest from the unstructured data, but still that will be the unstructured data. Thank you, Pooja ma'am. Thank you so much. So I think we have already extended this time. Thank you so much. Yes, yes. Tamil Rasiji, actually, there are two terminologies. One is parameter and second is the hyperparameter. So there are the different strategies to deal with the parameters, and there are the different ways and tricks to do the changes of the hyperparameters. So we'll be discussing when I'll explain all these hands-on. In that, I'll explain all that part. Thank you so much, Meera sir, for such a compliment. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Kunapa Reddy ji, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Shri Prakash sir, thank you so much. You're welcome, sir. Thank you so much, everyone. So that's all from my side, and rest will be continuing tomorrow at the same time. So thank you so much. Thank you, Tamil Rasi ji.